Pretty Little Liars, the television series, sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We've provided a list of content warnings in the episode description. Hello and welcome to Dead Ends. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we have the first 2 episodes of season 6 for you.
My God.
We are getting close to the end.
We really are. We are getting close to the end and we still have 40 episodes.
This is at the beginning of the end, though. Pretty Little Liars. It's like Dance Moms. You get 60 episodes a season, it feels like.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's continuing on last episode. It's certainly amping it up.
It's dark.
Mm-hmm.
But it also still gives you the moments of play. The joy.
Yes. I told you as we were watching the second episode that I was like, yeah, I'm feeling the fun kind of like slip out of the show. Like it's so like dour and serious right now. And then you get the scene with Lorenzo and I'm like, all right, this we got this. There's still some good moments in here.
Toby's hot cop.
Toby's boyfriend.
First time watching that, I did not realize, like, rewatching it, I'm like, there's a lot of chemistry there.
Oh my God, there's so much. Like, Toby is absolutely in love with Lorenzo.
Well, because he's bringing diversity.
Oh my God, we'll get to the exact quote. I pulled it down. It's so funny. He's bringing diversity to the force, something like that. And
he's part of the. Oh no, I don't remember.
It's
coded
100%. It is essentially diversity, but without saying diversity. It's like a fresh perspective.
Yeah, they're fresh perspective. Yeah,
which in real life is absolute horseshit. But it is very funny to pull in to the show, and Lorenzo is the best part of this new season. I'm gonna put that down right now. Other than where it seems to be that the show is like, what about Allison? No, Toby. I'll put my foot down there. But the thing, continuing on from kind of talking about like the tone shift from the last episode, this is much more, it's like getting into the there's like torture, like very explicitly, and then like what people are doing afterwards when they get freed. So I said True Detective last time, and there's still a bit of that, but it reminded me a lot of around the same time there's a movie called Prisoners by the guy who did Sicario.
Good. So a nice light film.
Yeah, I mean, it's about a parents, I think it's their child gets kidnapped, and then they think they know, like the police aren't are investigating but aren't helping. They haven't found the kid. They think they know who the murderer is, like the kidnapper is, and like go after them. So it's a real intense movie. I don't know how it holds up. I mean, I watched it 10 years ago. I liked it at the time, but it's like so I feel like that's a similar like of a piece here of like what happens to people when they are like kidnapped or like those perpetrators, and what do people do when they think they know who the guilty person is, and the police don't seem to be investigating or trying to help that person, or not trying to help, trying to capture that person.
Well, the police are trying to. Well, I guess if you're thinking like Spencer's perspective, Spencer doesn't think it's Andrew.
No, but like Arya interacting,
does.
and then Emily going to the gun range to like protect herself, or like trying exact control. I feel like that's of a similar pace, even though Prisoners goes like way farther. It's just kind of like similar tonal thing that I haven't had. And the other thing that I like thought of too is like this is right before the true crime boom. So this is all kind of swirling in there in the mixture. It's not quite to my taste as much anymore. Certainly was at the time, but we can roll with it.
Yeah, things change.
Before we get into the episodes, because as we slowly move along, it's like, oh, I get to look up like production stuff. I read, I think, a BuzzFeed article that you had referenced that's like talking about building the mystery, building the show, what's happening going forward. And so in it, like Marlene King is like, yeah, we got like through season 5, and like there was like a really big reaction amongst fans of like, good God, can you like solve the mystery already? She's like, that we hadn't seen since like season 2, so we knew we had to accelerate it and put the A reveal midway through the season, still instead of at the end of season 6, which I find very funny.
Yeah, they really dragged this one out. Like I've said, it was quite infuriating to be a fan, because you're like, I don't even fucking care who A is anymore. There got to a certain point where you're like this one not as much, but I think by the time you get to the last A, I'm like, who gives a shit?
I bet that.
But then
exactly
I also
can't
can't stop watching. So
Yeah,
like, you
right.
know, it's not only who gives a shit. It's like it gets that part of your brain that's like the little like dopamine fiend that's like, I need to know, I need to know, I need to know. But then it's also like, I don't care, but
Yeah.
you do care.
Right. It was just like, come on.
It's like an abusive boyfriend. Like, you're like, stop fighting with me, but then you're fighting back because it's what you've been conditioned to do, and it's really toxic. It was a very toxic relationship.
And especially with the last one, you're like, well, I've been through this season the show for 6 seasons. I got to see how it finishes out.
Yeah, and then I got that last reveal, and I was like, oh.
It'll be interesting how we approach Theory Corner on that one. Since I know what that is, and we'll have to.
There's lots of other things we can dig into, because trust me,
Right.
the A reveal is the least important part of that plot.
Okay.
I can ask you how you think each character is going to end up. And even though you know quite a few things, you could not fucking fathom some of these things.
Yeah, I know 2.
Yes.
The A reveal and then a couple.
Yes.
And that's it.
But you don't know how that couple gets there. You don't know what happens. You don't know how any of the other couples get wherever they're going. You don't know.
You had also mentioned you're like, you don't remember this person being in the room. I'm like, no. Because I didn't know who the hell those characters were.
Yeah, so you don't know who's like kidnapped at the end with the hello Spencer part.
Yeah, no, I don't.
You don't remember? That's
I only
so funny because
know-
you don't remember faces, huh? You just remember it like in passing. You're like, oh, but there's this
I only remember the one because it
was a twist. Yeah, that
yeah.
I was screaming.
But everybody else, like, I didn't commit to memory, and then we didn't start this show until 6 years after, so it's just like, whoop.
You didn't keep that? You didn't keep that little nugget of 40 minutes of television that I made you watch?
Right. Also that the show was originally conceived as 5 years.
Yeah, because that makes sense. They were like, okay, we'll do a 2-year arc and then this like 3-year arc and then we're done. Or 5 seasons.
Right. And I think it's funny that Troy in here is quoted. It's just like, yeah, I think any mystery show fears like, what if people don't like the resolution? Because like, and name drops Twin Peaks and Lost. And then backs up the writers. But there was, oh yeah, it's Marlene King specifically talking about coming up with the next A. It was just like, we didn't know who that was until we ended Mona's story. I started to freak out as we were nearing the end there. It's like, I don't like want to write another episode without knowing who was gonna like steal the game. And then they, for like 2 or 3 episodes, there were 3 people that they had to be A, and then we got 2 episodes in, and this is a direct quote, I pitched to the room this new idea that it wasn't any of those 3, and I told the story of Charles, and everybody's mouths dropped. Then I started telling it to a few more people, not too many, and everybody had the same reaction. Takes an hour to tell the story, which will be the finale, but I just knew based on everybody's reaction that it was the way to go.
Oh, you're gonna hate this mid-season finale, I think.
I bet I will.
Because it's just like a constant, it's like an entire episode of info dump to like wrap up the story. It's just like a whole, you're just like,
well, and so just
also, so think about that. So you already know from this episode, Sarah Harvey has been taken for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But this A hasn't started until like this last year. But somehow they stole the game from Mona, even though they've been playing the game longer. So even the writers had to then like go back and like kind of smooth over that timeline. But they don't really do it. But like that's it, because she's saying like she didn't know who the next A was and who took the game.
Right.
Whereas like, as you already know, like Mona can't have taken the game from someone who was playing it first. And
So-
we've got that Mona, you did everything, I did everything you asked me to scene that never has like really fit in or made sense.
Right. Because then Mona would know who that person was. presumably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that does add a ton of... Sarah Harvey had so much complications here.
Okay, so I've been waiting for the Sarah Harvey reveal because like they introduced her so long ago, like as this concept,
and then she's a dead end because
she's a dead end.
It isn't the girl that's in there, and Bethany takes her place as that figure of someone that was actually Allison's body. They bring her back,
and so then they're like, "Well, do you want to know where she was? She was in a dungeon."
Right. Rather than it could have just been. It's so unnecessary because it could have just been, this is another girl that something happened to her in the world, and that's we can't explain it. Yeah, and it's horrible, but we can leave it there.
This horrible shit happens, or give us a resolution on her case. You know what? She was a runaway and she was found, or someone else was messing with her. But of course, they had to bring her into the fold. I'm really intrigued for you to like deep dive into that character. Because obviously, as you can tell from the end of the second episode, she's going to be around for a little bit. And that's how she gets her nickname, Shower Harvey. Because she takes a lot of showers after this point.
Jesus. So then the one other thing I wanted to mention on here is Joseph Doherty was like, in mentioning exactly the finale, he's like the only model.
Is that Jason?
Joseph Doherty?
Yeah, who's that?
That's the exec producer.
Oh, it's a producer. Okay. I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone's name.
He's like the only model for this type of like season, like reveal season finale is the season 4 one when Allison got there. It's like, that's the previous high water mark for maximum signal to noise information. This goes way beyond that. It's exponentially more information than what was in that episode. So speaking to exactly what you're saying.
It's like if you took that season opener with the Mona info dump, or is it a mid-season? Whatever. The opener with the Mona info dump and that season 4 finale, and you stuck them together, and then you made it like it's of course like the night of like a costume party ball kind of thing, because it has to be, because they have to have one ball per
right, of course. It's a quota
per season. And so you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And Arya specifically looks like Snow White. I think they're all like supposed to look like different. I only remember specifically that Arya looks like Snow White, and I was like, why? What is happening? I mean, it was a beautiful outfit. Like, it was fun, but you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right. This is in the season 6A finale?
Our mid-season finale.
Well.
Shall we get into it?
Let's do it. So before we even get there, we got to start the season. Season 6, episode 1, episode 121. Game on, Charles. A blonde person is drawing a sun in chalk on a cement wall. We see also a large number of tick marks on the wall, like indicating that they've been there for a long time. They round a corner and we see the girls making a run for it from the last episode. We see a new the face of the new person who watches them round the corner, then goes back into their cell and sits down. This is Sarah Harvey. We get the scene of the girls realizing they're fenced in. The doors to the bunker suddenly shut. Hannah calls Charles a bitch into the security camera. Spencer mentions when Charles got close, she thought he was really familiar, like an old friend or family member. They hear thunder, and we cut to them huddled under Spencer's dress in the rain. But the funniest part about this is that Emily is completely uncovered. It seems like they're stuck outside as a few days pass. They're thirsty and starving, and they're freaking out. But Mona gives them a pep talk and says they can all handle this. And in the morning of that, multiple days later, the doors open. They agree to stick together and head back into the bunker. As they walk, the power shuts off. A hooded figure in a gas mask puts down a gas grenade and grabs Mona and covers her with a gas mask. The girls are all laid out on metal carts covered in white sheets, so they look like cadavers. As they all slowly wake up, Emily confirms that they didn't harvest their organs. Spencer thinks one of them to look dead to send a message to their families, so they'll stop looking. Mona comes in dressed as a candy striper and gives them all liquids. They were out for only a few hours. Mona's been in her room, and that's all she knows. They get ordered by the voice to return to their rooms to find their surprises. Mona says no repeatedly into the camera till it eventually just chimes 3 times, and she says, "We have to return to our rooms, or else it steals you in the night and puts you in the hole." One by one, they go into their rooms as the doors lock, and we hear screams. We then get a 3 weeks later tag. The friends are still missing, and we are outside of Allison's house as it's like a press conference with the news. Allie was released and is going to speak to police. We see she's also now rocking her mother's haircut. Fitz and Caleb are in attendance. Andrew is missing and is the top suspect for the kidnapping. Allie reads a statement that her friends were kidnapped by the same monster who stole Mona. Allison talks about how much she loves her friends and pleads to Andrew not to hurt them. Someone asks if she thinks Andrew did it, and she says no more questions no more questions. And also, no more police, like, leave my family alone, and heads back inside with her dad. We see that this was all a setup with the police to lure out Andrew. If Allison is without the police help, then maybe Andrew will show up to grab her. Tanner ensures that Allison will be safe, and we see Toby as part of the police team. We see Sarah is also in the aforementioned Mike's Mike crusty yellow top and delivers food outside of the girls' doors. Spencer asks if that's Mona outside, but again, we see it's Sarah. The police and the dealer Rentices wait and are jump scared by Jason coming home. He almost gets shot. Allison gets a call from a blocked ID, or gets shot by Toby specifically. Allison gets a call from a blocked ID. She answers it, and an oldies song plays. This is Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree by
the Andrews Sisters.
Yep.
Some of us knew it.
Right. Unlike Toby, who's like, this is what my mom used to play. You were like, I used to watch the Lawrence Welk Show.
I don't critique my childhood, you know?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying.
I was raised ready for the home.
This would come in handy right now.
Yeah. This episode, all Walking After Midnight.
Yeah, you're like, I know all these.
I know all the songs in this episode.
The police try to trace the call, and the music ends, and Allison says into the phone, I know you're the one I want, and the call ends, and the trace results that the caller is inside the house. Tanner shoves Allison in a closet by herself. Smart. And Toby searches the house and goes into a room and finds a black hoodie rocking in a chair. Tanner and him approach and find it's a doll with a pig mask on. There's a cell phone in the jacket pocket that rings, and they answer it to pig noises. They go back to the closet where Allison was and see she's gone, and cut to her running in the woods. Tanner puts out an APB for Allison. Toby mentions that the song on the call was something his mom used to play on the piano. Toby calls that in, and Tanner says the song was a message about Campbell Apple Farm, and she thinks Allison went there to meet Andrew without them. We see Allison jump in a car with Caleb and Fitz. Turns out she was double-crossing the police. Fitz got a text from Toby that everyone is going to the apple farm, so they're in the clear. Allison assures them that Andrew will try and capture her at the Kissing Rock. Caleb gives her new shoes and shows her that there's a tracking device in the heel. 007, there's a tracking device in the heel. We'll always be able to find you no matter where you're at. At the bunker, the voice says, proceed. He really is the cue. At the bunker, the voice says, proceed to Allison's room and prepare for her arrival. We see that the girls are dressed in their old clothes from before Allison went missing, and Arya has a new haircut with pink streaks in it. They all say they won't talk about what they went through until they get out of here. I thought this was that they're telling the audience, hey, we're not going to discuss it, but turns out next episode that's wrong. Emily says we're all together again. It'll be okay. They enter Allison's room in the bunker and find it empty with a bunch of boxes. They dig through and find that it's Allison's stuff from, like, her house. Spencer finds a paper on Allison's murder conviction getting overturned. Hannah doesn't believe that's a real paper, though. Hannah asks if A made them sign Allison's welcome card, too. They piece together that Allison is being brought there. They wonder where Mona is and if A won't need her anymore when Allison arrives. We see Mona is in a giant well, like Silence of the Lambs. A hooded figure comes in with a flashlight, and Mona pleads to be let out. The friends look through Allison's stuff, and Hannah finds a photo book that has pictures of them from the lake. Spencer finds an old toy car that has the initial CD etched in it. Arya looks in the closet and asks for Spencer's help. Spencer comes over and finds scratched into the back of the closet, "He's going to kill me," signed M. We see a news bulletin that Radley is being closed. Doesn't come up, but I just want to flag that. We're at the police station.
Oh, it'll matter later.
Yeah. I assume that if Radley was shutting down, that needs to be noted for future episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the police station, and my God, his name's like Bagley. He has a name, but he's like a recurring police officer.
Yeah, he's been around since the very beginning because he brought like Hannah home when she stole stuff.
Got it. But he just
right?
They just never he never says his name.
Why wasn't he promoted? Like, he seems like a good guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ACAB, but
right.
Like,
but at least for
and television cops.
Right. Well, pulling back the meta layer on this, at least give him, he's been on the show so long. Give him
At least I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
he's been around for a long time. I
Also,
think since season 1, yeah. So
you cannot guess what will happen with Radley Sanatorium. That's another one of those things that I'm like, I don't think you could dream that one up. It's not as strange as like other things, but like just what happens with it.
they turned it into apartments.
Not quite.
So Bagley and Toby are watching through newscasts and the news bulletin from Allison's press conference. Tanner comes in and demands Toby tell her she knows where Allison might be going. They scrub through the news, and then Bagley notices a man in a hat who walks behind the reporter, and Toby says, that could be Andrew. They get the end of the plate number of the car that they get into, and the number is 108. Allison walks through the woods and waits for A. She hears music, always walking after midnight, and goes toward it. She finds an empty car and climbs in. She turns it on, and the GPS gives her directions. She drives away, and Fitz and Caleb go to follow. Fitz worries that this will be a mistake, and Caleb's like, it's not. Almost is.
I love Caleb, though. Like this. He's just like, no. Fitz is just like despondent and annoying. Like, he's like, things are so bad. And Caleb's like, I will fix this.
He's like, action.
Yeah.
If we have to sacrifice Allison, so be it.
Caleb doesn't. I think that's part of it, too. Like, Caleb has, like, he's not fond of Allison. Mm-hmm. He might be now, but like.
And Fitz is like, this is my ex.
This is my other high school girlfriend.
I had scrubbed that out of my brain and just remembered it now. But yes, Caleb being like we're gonna get this done. Caleb, it is a very dumb plan, and Caleb does get very lucky.
Yeah, why didn't they stick like, okay, if I was gonna stick a tracking device on someone and like I knew this person was like kidnapping people, I'd probably stick the tracking device like somehow in them or like on their underwear. You know what I mean? Like a part of their clothing that they're less likely to take off.
Right, like
shoes are pretty changeable.
And it's also like
put it in her hair.
Oh yeah, because I mean the shoe's got a little wedge too, like a little heel to it, so it's like it's gonna be going through the woods.
Those aren't really good hiking shoes.
Yeah, you know they're gonna be going through the woods.
They're always running through the woods, but they're always running through the woods in heels. So maybe Caleb was like, "You'll be prepared."
That's right. It only made sense to me at the end of this episode when they break out and they're all running in heels. I'm like, they've been training.
Or in the last episode, you mean?
Oh, the last episode, right? Yes.
This one, they're wearing their old clothes.
Right, but in their dresses, I'm like, they've been training for this. Ye of little faith, Brenton. Hannah reads the rosewood paper with a picture of her mom and her put on there. The friends all got boxes of stuff from home, and Arya has her pig puppet, Pigtunia.
Pigtunia's back, baby.
I don't think Pigtunia got as much time on the show as it did in the books.
But we know. Mm-hmm. We know Pigtunia.
Real ones know. They realize A took their stuff a long time ago. Hannah says the article in the paper is about their
Pigtunia. She didn't even notice.
Exactly. Arya's like, whatever. I'm done with that. Poor Pigtunia. Hannah says the article in the paper is all about their families. Arya freaks out and threatens A through the camera. Hannah learned that Ashley's in the hospital from the trauma. Spencer notices a box and is like, hey, let's help Allison unpack. We're going to get...
No, Hannah. They're in Hannah's room, right?
Oh, right. And is like, and then whispers to everybody, we're getting out of here tonight. Spencer grabs an Etch-a-Sketch and says, she's like, hey, did I ever tell you I won a contest in 3rd grade? She writes that Charles is a De Laurentiis. Mona sits in the well and hums to herself and cries. Yeesh. Allison drives to the destination and finds that the car shuts off and is out of fuel. She realizes she also has no service. She sits and waits in the car, and she calls OnStar and asks for assistance. The person who picks up says what you need is in the trunk of the car and tells her to open it up.
Did you know you could hack OnStar?
Apparently.
They can.
Mm-hmm. Do people know what OnStar is anymore?
I don't know. Do people use OnStar?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Your car had it. Your old car.
Mm-hmm. But that was a car from 2009, 2008.
That would make sense for this show, you know?
I mean, this has happened in 2015, but I guess the car. But it's just funny to reference OnStar.
I feel like OnStar was around for a while, then all of a sudden it just kind of like tapered out.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they put it in so many cars that probably like built, and then maybe it just didn't.
Right. I don't know. I bet the service is probably still operational.
Google it while you keep reading.
Okay. Fitz and Caleb realize that she stopped. Caleb's like, we shouldn't get any closer. And Fitz is like, this doesn't feel right. We should call Toby. Tanner reads Allison's diary as Toby busts in and says they got a read on Andrew's car, and they go to chase. Fitz and Caleb come up to the car and see that the trunk is open and the car is empty. They find a card in the trunk signed from the friends, and the card says, change your clothes and start walking or they die. Caleb says she set down her shoes in a direction for a reason. We need to follow it in that way. And then we see Allison is walking in her crusty yellow top in the woods. Spencer gets the friends together and says, let's go. Allison walks through the woods and we see a camera in a tree. Spencer says the thing written on the note card from Mona was an anagram, and Hannah's like, oh, it spells out Charles De Laurentiis. I'm like, damn, quick thinking. Spencer thinks that the vault is on the other... So I had gotten confused in my last episode description that the shut door that they get into, which is like the theater room with the reel, that was a shut like a vault. But no, there's an actual vault. So correction for me from last episode. Spencer thinks that the vault is on the other side of the childhood bedroom, and that's how A is getting around. The alarm goes off, and Emily finds instead of being behind the bed, there's a vent behind the dresser. As they find this, the alarm stops suddenly, and Arya looks around like, huh? They crawl through the vent, and they're in the theater room again, and they watch the reel with Jessica and the children. Spencer stares into the camera and says, game on, Charles. She stops the reel, and it catches on fire. A watches them, and we see an alarm goes off as Allison is on camera just waiting in the woods. Spencer says, we want Mona back, and the friends start catching the room on fire. A is like, damn. Stop the fire. Capture Allison. Stop the fire. Capture Allison. Damn it. And it slams their hands on the table. Fitz? No. They get mad and leave their station. Allison is in the woods and hears someone step on branches, but we see it's Caleb and Fitz. In the theater room, the fire is spreading fast, and the friends realize, hey, wait, A's not coming for us. We need to put this out. Emily says, help me get this curtain down. She pulls it down and she screams because she's face to face with a masked person in a black hoodie. Allie, Caleb, and Fitz think they were late on a goose chase and leave, and then we see nearby there's smoke rising from a bush. The friends look at the person in the mask and they double down on setting the fire. We see that there's actually another hooded figure still in the control room. One hooded figure hits the fire alarm. Cut to Allison and crew as she hears the alarm ringing, and they notice that the smoke is climbing from the ground. They call the cops, and Fitz notices a bigger building, and the other two go to follow. The friends run around looking and calling for Mona. She hears them and calls for them as the friends run in to help. They grab a rope and pull her out. Cut to them running down the hall. We cut back between Caleb and Fitz and Allie on the other side of the bunker doors. They help get them out, and they're all reunited as the police show up. All the couples kiss. Toby then arrives and tells Spencer that it was Andrew, and they're going to get him. The police find the other girl, Sarah Harvey, and go to help. She's scared of them as the cop reassures her she's safe now, and then asks her name, to which she replies, Sarah Harvey. We see Sarah being taken out on a stretcher. Emily catches us up that she went missing the same time Allison did, and then Emily thanks Allison and asks who Charles is. The end.
So OnStar still does exist. I think they sunsetted OnStar, and I think there was like a European version or whatever. But it's specifically a subsidiary of GM, so it's only in, I'm assuming, GM cars.
Okay.
And it is theoretically susceptible to remote activation by malicious third parties and government agencies. And there's this whole thing about, like, is your data actually secure? Because it also gets your GPS data and stuff. And are they selling it? And what are they doing with it? And, like, there's been cases around that. And can the FBI get it and stuff? So, I mean, this is all in the Wikipedia, but it's pretty interesting. It's so,
that is
you know
very
what?
interesting that they pulled this in here.
Yeah, I was like, that's not as off as I thought it would be.
Uh-huh.
I thought that a lot of this would be unfounded, but it turns out I was the one who was unfounded.
No. Good job, PLL writers, doing your homework.
You ready?
I am.
Let's talk about Sarah Harvey.
Uh-huh.
What are our thoughts, feels? Who is she? Well, I mean, we know who she is, but...
Right. But yeah, up top, but continuing on, it just adds such an unnecessary complication because now we have to hold in our head Sarah Harvey. It messes up the timeline because she was captured 2 years ago. We find that out next episode, I guess. But so then that's just like, wait, how does this A play into Mona doing stuff? Since Mona was when Allison went missing and Sarah Harvey went missing at the exact same time. But then also Sarah Harvey was thought to be the person in Allison's grave, but that turned out to be a third person named Bethany, who was from Radley. And so Bethany was in there. So then Sarah Harvey's just been missing and then now was kept by A and forced to dress like Allison. So it was essentially another person like how Mona was, but then, you know, maybe got pushed away when Mona came. But it seems like Mona did not interact ever. With Sarah.
I don't think Mona knew Sarah was there.
No. Yeah, there's a lot to keep in your head. It's the
how many blondes in a crusty yellow tank top can there be?
But it's just adds so much on top of it that you're just like, it makes my job much harder. But I will say this, that just to call out new actor that we got going on here. Her name is Dre Davis, and she was a model on Project Runway, and then was brought onto here. So
cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the best.
Like a job for her to take.
Yeah, the best character, but whatever.
Not her fault.
No.
Why did Mona get protected by A from the gas? Why did A put the gas mask on Mona?
I guess just so.
Was Mona in that oubliette for 3 weeks?
It really seems like Mona was.
Mm-hmm.
Good God. Showing Mona then stuck in the well at the bottom is very scary. So I guess maybe it's easier to have, because no, Mona then serves them their like fluids and things after once they wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess just to keep Mona up and about
to do things.
Yeah. I wonder if A made Mona help them, like put them on the cart and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Boy.
So we know Toby was involved with the Caleb Ezra plot,
Mm-hmm.
So did Caleb and Toby set up the little pig mask on the little egg? Like, did Toby know that was there?
He must have. I hadn't thought about that, but he's in on this.
Did he call an oink? Like, who got the oinking call?
I know. So that's got to be a Caleb setup there,
mm-hmm.
which that does seem like a Caleb move, and I'm happy to give him props for that. But Toby must have known that was there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that they knew. They got so lucky that Tanner shoved Allison in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
Without any other police protection.
Why did the other cop let her out?
I don't know. Why? Yeah. They just got so lucky that I guess they knew the police were incompetent, but
mm-hmm. Did they get lucky or did they just utilize the system in front of them?
Right. Never mind. Retract my statement. And Toby's like, we're not that incompetent.
Trips over on feet.
Mm-hmm.
What's A's plan for the girls? Is this like a doll situation? Are they all gonna, like, she brought their extra stuff, or he brought their extra stuff, or they brought their extra stuff, and like, what's the?
Yeah, I think it's a way of. Hannah hits it on the head, or is it Hannah? I forget, or maybe Spencer. That it's like, oh, they took the pictures of us looking like bodies to like.
Spencer, I think.
Yeah, that is so people would stop looking for us, and then bringing all their stuff there. It is like, this is your home now. And you are exactly like you're saying, you are now all my dolls.
Did A do anything to them on the tables? They didn't take organs, but
it didn't seem like it. So I'm going to go with Spencer's theory that A did nothing to them, but made them look like they were dead.
Okay.
And I think A wants to torture them when they're awake.
Yeah.
Because I think A has a much better time when they are doing it to each other, essentially.
Got it.
Yeah.
Where did Andrew go?
Where did Andrew go? The Andrew stuff, they traced his van. I'm assuming that that Andrew was somehow, I think, tricked into working with A. I think there's a connection there that Andrew was doing with A, and then A sold him out. That's my theory. Because otherwise, I don't quite know what the hell is going on with Andrew.
Did he?
I guess he could. I don't know what else he'd be doing. Why he would run away? Like, that's the biggest thing. It's like, why disappear? And I don't think that he's A. Okay. Because they're pointing so much to Andrew.
Well, and because Spencer doesn't think he's A in the next episode, and that to me is the.
And when Arya's
Arya
trying
feels
to
betrayed because she kissed him, and he was a creep. I mean, there's an aspect of that is he still, in some way, shape, or form, feels like she feels like he betrayed them.
Yeah,
and we as the audience know he was doing something sketch because he was listening to the calls on Bluetooth in the cafe.
in the brew. Yeah, I just think because there's so much pointing to him right now that the writers would want something more of a surprise when we get the unmasking of Charles. So my guess is that he was somehow working with A, but maybe not fully cognizant of what's happening there. And I feel like the Campbell Farm stuff is a big misdirect. So much like sending the police to the Campbell Apple Farm.
How do we feel about Toby finally being useful?
At least something's going on. It's interesting because Toby does not leave the police force, but he's now at least opened up to working with the friends from inside the police force, which makes him at least somewhat more useful.
Yeah, if he had been doing this from the beginning, it would have been helpful.
Absolutely. He's like, I am the mole inside the police force. I am Matt Damon in The Departed. So I like that much better. I did, still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think happened to the girls while they were in their rooms for 3 weeks? You get a little bit of that in the next episode, but.
I think a lot of mind games for 3 weeks and separating them as much as possible. It would think to try and make them hate and turn on each other. So I'm assuming the more things we get is, we get the one experiment next episode.
Yeah, like the pick a friend.
That
who does or doesn't get food, or who gets shocked, or who gets whatever it is.
I forget. I meant to look it up beforehand, and we can do it maybe in a little bit. What the actual experiment was called there, but yes, exactly like that, and other things to maybe be like, oh, your friend, there's other kind of experiments and mind games that I'm sure they're gonna play with here, since it seems to be pulling directly from psychology and
like psychological torture and stuff.
Exactly. I think specifically, I wonder if there's gonna be a choice too of like, forget what this one's called too, but it's essentially that if you rat on someone, they'd let you go, but if you don't, you both get 5 years or something. And I forget what that one's specifically called. Prisoner's Dilemma. Thank you. Like kind of like stuff like that. I'm assuming there's going to be more kind of pulled from directly famous and controversial like prison experiments and things like that, or like philosophical dilemmas.
It made me think of the Veronica Mars episode with the Stanford prison experiment. Don't they do that?
Yeah. They 100% do that. Because I was also thinking of that, and I was like, oh, that didn't come up on this show, that like Philip Zimbardo was my psych professor in college, who Philip Zimbardo is the guy who did the Stanford prison experiment. He was the professor at that time.
Didn't he have some regrets about it?
Oh, absolutely.
Like mass regrets about it?
Yeah, because you royally mess people up.
Yeah.
And then let it go on too long. He didn't call it. Because I think that was like also the big thing, is like he let it go on for an extra day, I think. I forget what the exact amount of time is. But the Stanford prison experiment episode of Veronica Mars is very funny. If you want to see what's his face from Boy Meets World, he plays Hunter on Boy Meets World, right? Sean. And he's just the biggest dickhead on the face of the planet.
That is, yeah, I forget about that. That is what kind of makes it like funny. I mean, as funny as you can make the Stanford prison experience.
And also in hindsight, they make Wallace go and do that. So it's like, well, we sent our one black character to do the Stanford prison experiment.
Oh my God. There was a lot of issues with that show, but
it really is. There's some goofy, especially that season too. That's
the college season is goofy as hell.
Yeah, and in both like haha and like ooh ways. It has a lot more grossness by volume than the rest of the series. Speaking of all that, yeah. So you can go, if you want, you can go back and listen to those episodes of this when we called this show something different.
What is A's plan for Mona and the girls? Or the other girl, sorry, so Sarah Harvey.
Oh, for Mona and Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what maybe leaving Mona in the hole until she breaks like Sarah and then just shove her in a closet somewhere, I guess, since Allison's here. And I don't know if A wants to technically kill any of them.
Mm-hmm. Do you keep them for extras just in case?
Exactly. It's kind of like putting the doll you don't want to play with for going with that same metaphor.
In your closet.
Uh-huh. Since the real one's here. Yeah, this is like tough.
Do we think
this is like dark?
Do we think Charles is actually a De Laurentiis?
It really seems like it. My guess would be yes, like some sort of secret brother, but I don't know. And especially when Alan's like, my dad said it wasn't a De Laurentiis, and Spencer's like, well, he's lied. Like, yeah, I'm of the exact same opinion.
What do we think of the plan to get the girls out and how it all played out? What's your vibes on that?
Dude, they're trying their best out there. I feel like it's poor at best.
But the girls got themselves out, basically.
Mm-hmm. They got lucky as hell because they were like, okay, Allison's gonna get captured, and then we're gonna be able to track her. Oh no, she left her shoes.
But she left them pointing in the direction she walked.
Uh-huh. And Allison also got so lucky that the girls were getting themselves out.
And setting fire to the building.
Mm-hmm. And they do that same thing again of like, wow. They mention it again of when they go into that room. It's like A really does have a soul. It's like, and that's a little like goofy to me because it's doing that thing. It's like I'm assuming the like
instead of being like A
trauma.
Well, and I think it's also like A is a real person because for them so long A has been like concept.
Right. Yeah.
So I think maybe if they had said like A really is like a human, but I think that comes off goofy. So like I don't think there's any easy way to kind of put that into the show.
Yeah, that's fair. But going back to the plan, I think it's half baked at best. And I think Caleb is like, if Allison gets taken, he gets taken.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sweat off my back.
Exactly. I don't really like her much anyway. So yeah, they just get extremely lucky.
There we go.
The damsels do it themselves.
Exactly. Shall we pause and move on to the next one?
Let's do it.
There's a corgi sleeping under my chair.
All right. Before we get into the next episode, his name is Barry Maple. That's the officer's name. Seasons 1 through 7. So he's been here forever. Wait. In a deleted scene for Game Over Charles, I did not read this. It is revealed that Barry actually helps.
That's game over. No! Brenton Charles Pyle! I have done so much work to keep my goddamn mouth shut. Divorce.
I've had that open for a week too. I didn't see that sentence.
Okay, I love you anyway. You made it pretty close without a spoiler for a show that was on 10 years ago. That's pretty good.
At least I wasn't off track.
No. And now you know what the twist is.
I won't like it.
No.
I will not.
It's not done well.
Boy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit.
I almost said earlier today, too. Like, and I never think of it as like, I try not to like think of the A by name.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost said it, and then I caught myself before I said it out loud. And so then I was like, whew, made it through another day.
God damn it. Well,
I know.
Now I just get to backwards map in Theory Corner for 2 seasons. Ah, no.
Well, you made it. You literally we have 4 more episodes before it's revealed of this podcast. There's only 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And so these are the first 2. So you had 8 episodes left. So close.
So close.
Well, maybe you
I was not expecting this to happen. I derailed the show so bad.
I was like, game over. You can't read the game over. I tried to stop you too.
I didn't.
You thought it was Game On, Charles.
I got us game.
No, I told you that the one where it's revealed is called Game
Over,
Charles. I warned you. I'm sorry.
No, it is. It's not. This is only. I have only myself to blame.
Yeah, I know. I just feel bad for you. I know this was important to you.
Well, his name's Officer Barry Maple, and I'm not going to finish the rest of that sentence. God damn it. Well, his name's Barry Maple. The other piece of information that I was going to pull up was that Lorenzo is played by Travis Winfrey. I don't really know the rest of his stuff, but he's still working and was on Kenan Thompson's sitcom recently.
There you go. Also, we will be getting no Jenna this season. She's in seasons 1 through 5 and 7.
Really?
I forgot she wasn't in season 6.
That's wild.
I was like, now that you have this open.
Oh my god. I can't believe Jenna's not in this season. Well, I will recover.
Do you need to take a pause and take a minute?
It's all right.
Okay.
We just keep on going.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. Well, we're just going to close that out. I'm looking things up through the rest of the series.
I didn't give it away once.
No, you did so good.
Thank you. It was really hard because I don't really like it.
No.
I like that it. I do not like how we get there.
Also, now in hindsight.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was asking if you thought that it was if Charles was a De Laurentiis.
Mm-hmm. It just seems the case. So we'll still try and figure out what the background is.
The family tree is you'd have to like smoke some pot and sit outside and talk to some trees, and even then I don't think it would tell you how it worked.
Oh boy.
It'd be like, that branch can't be there, and you'd be like, well, it is.
Okay. Well. Season 6, episode 2, episode. Oh, I didn't even write it. 122, Songs of Innocence.
Not you though. You're guilty.
Absolutely. Well, exactly. Like you said, this could have come up way earlier.
Yeah. Also, I would have
so
looked
close.
this up years ago. You know, when we're watching Lost, I'm going to cheat. I need you to understand that. I need everyone who's listening to this podcast to understand that. I will try my hardest to not look things up, but I can't. Who I am at 2 a.m. and who I am when I'm doing this podcast are two very different people. And sometimes I can't sleep until I have an answer. Yeah. And I'm not risking that.
And you're probably just going to come when we do that.
Well, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, you're going to be like, what? Who is this person? So that the other thing, too, that I find very funny about getting this reveal, the Barry Maple Wikipedia entry of all things.
We'll title this one "Brenton Ruins This Podcast."
Let me just look up a piece of information real quick. Wait, nope, I'm getting a note.
Also, why don't you just let me look things up? Why are you insistent on looking things up yourself?
I don't know.
It's okay. It's too late now.
Yeah. It's probably that part of me that I want to know, and I want to bring the things to the podcast.
Yeah, but you're bringing the theories, baby.
I know. I should have just said, "Can you look this up for me?"
It's okay. We are here where we are.
Hindsight 2020.
Always is.
Yep.
Okay. Do you remember a long time ago on the podcast, you were like, "Oh, I think I ruined it for myself. I saw that like the had an A on the fandom." I was like, well, everyone associated with A at some point gets that, which is true. Like Toby has it. You know what I mean? Spencer has it.
I think Jenna has it at one point.
So I'm like, everyone has it. So like, you know, it's fine. And you're like, oh, okay. And I was like, phew. This was like a good year ago, I feel like. I was like, okay. We're going to make it.
Well, this is also a lesson in teamwork. If I just pass this off to you.
You also will not be able to predict, like I said, multiple people's like deaths and like final endings, whether or not those are deaths. Some of them aren't. Any of the plot of season 7 is going to make no sense. So you'll be fine. There's lots of things for you to still guess.
Okay. Well, yes, there's actually plenty to discuss still in Theory Corner. Well, okay. Season 6, Episode 2, Episode 122, Songs of Innocence. This is from I closed the fandom page in anger. It's a collection of short stories that I completely forget who, but I was like, oh, this is a U2 album, isn't it?
Well, but the next episode is as well.
Yeah. They're both Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, which is the name of the full short story collection.
By William Blake.
Thank you.
I was waiting for a middle name, even though I know William Blake doesn't have one. Like, I was waiting for the page load. I was like, it's William something Blake. And I was like, nope, it's just William Blake.
William.
I mean, I'm sure he had a middle name, but...
Right. From here on out, I will be like, can you look this up? Can you look this up?
Oh, did you know that innocence and experience are definitions of consciousness that rethink Milton's existential mythic states of paradise and fall? Oh. I took a class on Milton. So
this is between like heaven and hell, essentially? Is that what paradise and fall is?
Kind of.
Oh. That's cool.
I mean, if I remember right.
Yeah, so this
I wrote my essays on Allegro and Penseroso. I did not write them on
I wonder if innocence is supposed to be paradise and experience is supposed to be hell?
Yes, so innocence is the unfallen world and experience is the fallen world. Because remember, you have to think like angelically, so it's fall or unfall, you know?
Right.
Which I guess is like heaven and hell. I mean, It is heaven and hell, but...
Interesting. Try and think through how this applies to these episodes. They're certainly not in heaven here. The friends are all in the hospital, Mona and Sarah in a separate area. Hannah overheard that Andrew and Charles are the same person. Arya seems to agree with the...
Oh, you know what it is? It's also like, so unfallen is like childlike and innocence. So like childlike innocence, like before, so it's like the childlike to adult, I feel like, or like the, you know, we went from like a child's play to like adult.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Things get bad.
Right. Yes. Oh, that makes sense.
You lose your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
The loss of childhood. Yeah.
Okay. I getcha. Arya seems to agree with the idea that Andrew and Charles are the same person. Spencer says we shouldn't tell the cops about Charles, and they'll know the truth, whether he is Charles or not, when they find Andrew. Toby tackles Andrew in the woods and is beating him up. When his partner, who we learn later is named Lorenzo, comes in and is like, pull it together, do your job, and arrest him. Allie argues with her dad about putting herself on a limb to rescue her friends. He's like, you shouldn't have done that. She asks her dad who Charles is. She doesn't recognize the name. And he's like, there is no Charles Dealer. I don't know a Charles De Laurentiis. And she's like, there isn't a Charles in the family? He's like, no, there's not a Charles in the family. And she's like, oh, the person who asked about this must have made a mistake. Emily goes into Sarah Harvey's room, who asks who she is. Sarah recognizes that she was down there as well. She says that she ended up down there when she ran away. She was in a parking lot near Rosewood where she either hit her head or someone hit her in the head, and then she woke up there. Emily asks if she saw who grabbed her or if she heard his voice, and Sarah's like, I'm too tired. Toby tells Spencer they grabbed Andrew. Spencer asks if he's sure... Sorry. Toby tells Spencer they grabbed Andrew. Spencer asks if he's sure he's the one. Toby says they found a diary about how much he hated Mona and the girls and women in general, along with a bunch of tracking equipment, that the diary read like a manifesto. Toby and Spencer embrace reunited.
This made me mad because at the time, this was after we went to UCSB during a shooting where a guy had a manifesto and was trying to shoot women and successfully did, as well as some men. But he had a manifesto and it was like this whole thing. So I felt it felt very modeled after that without calling it that, which I'm sure also like there's a lot of horrible people that do horrible things, and he wasn't the first, and unfortunately he probably won't be the last. But I do think if you're gonna call out something like that, like really make it like obvious and really villainize the character. Whereas in this case, we're just kind of like, is it Andrew?
Right.
Was the manifesto planted?
Uh-huh.
And it just feels very wishy-washy.
Totally. This is the limits of using like rip from the headline stuff.
Exactly. Like if you're gonna rip from the headlines and commit.
Yeah, absolutely. Make it part. This is just like dressing.
Mm-hmm.
Pam is checking Emily out of the hospital and Emily talks to her dad on the phone. Emily wants to stop and say goodbye to Sarah, and Pam's like, oh, she left already with someone who I assume was her mom. Pam is shocked by Sarah being down there for over 2 years, and Emily embraces her, saying it's okay. Hannah returns home and has flashbacks to her fake room in the bunker. Ashley scares her by touching her on the shoulder and says she'll order them dinner, and Hannah looks around her room. Arya and Ella arrive home with a laundry list of prescriptions. Byron is dealing with the police, and Ella says the parents all agree that the friends don't have to talk to the police yet. And Arya's like, what are you talking about? I'll go right now. I'll hop in the car. Let's get to it. Ella says, why don't you come down for food in a minute? Arya runs and opens her window as she has flashbacks to her fake room. Veronica tells Spencer that there's little chance of Mona being charged for faking her death, and the police want to blame everything on Andrew. Okay, Veronica. Spencer realizes that she doesn't have any anti-anxiety medication from the hospital, and Veronica's like, I told them not to give you any. Spencer is upset and is like, I need that to be able to go to sleep. Veronica says, no, you want it and don't need it, and that's the difference. And they argue about her not getting it because of her past drug addiction.
It makes no sense because Spencer's 18. Can her mom even do that?
No,
I don't think so.
Highly doubt it.
Also, if someone... And I don't have an active addiction. I don't have addiction. I can't tell you what it's like. But I would assume that if you lived with someone who you thought could have an addictive personality and has had experience with addiction, and they needed a specific medication, wouldn't you just make sure that you controlled when they received it?
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
Especially in this particular scenario. Also, she was addicted to uppers, and this is a downer. And I don't know. I don't feel like it's the same vibe.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some people, it's all about just being high, or some people it's just not having to be themselves. But it seems like Spencer always had a purpose for her drug use.
Right, exactly.
Spencer had a plan.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know why you wouldn't then just control it yourself and be like, I'll give you one before you go to bed.
Yeah. Also, she was underage drinking and no one gave a shit.
Right. Nope. Emily puts her suitcase away and finds a stand-up dresser with her dad's army jacket and puts it on. She opens her dad's gun safe, which has rifles and pistols galore. Spencer tries to sleep and has flashbacks to being stuck in a room with being back in the bunker, being stuck in a room. She's got wires attached to her wrist. She gets a countdown over the voice from the voice. And she has to hit a button. There's a bunch of buttons on a table, and we hear another girl's voice scream. Back in the present,
and the buttons all have pictures of the other girls over them.
Right. Yes. In the present, she puts a shoe to jam the door to keep it open. Spencer and Allison discuss Charles. Allie says, my dad says there isn't one. And Spencer's like, well, then he's a liar. Allie says, what do you think happened? A goblin stole the baby? And Spencer's like, we both know there's unconventional ways to have children. That's just to have children. That's why you and I share a brother. Allie gets quiet and Spencer says, thank you for getting us out, by the way. At the brew, Fitz dotes on Arya and she asks for company. He asks if she's all right and she's like, I will be. He's like, you have an advantage. You can put it on paper. Write it out. You're an artist. And she's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to think about this at all. I want a big wall between me, what happened there, and before and after. Emily is at a shooting range firing off pistol rounds. Caleb comes over and sees that Hannah is taking down her wallpaper. She wants everything changed and he's concerned. He tries to talk to her and she tells him to help her out and change the room. Toby and Lorenzo have a nice little bro moment as Allison comes over to talk and check in. Toby introduces his partner, Lorenzo Calderone, the most screenwriter name on the face of the planet. Allie asks if he's new in town. He's like, newish, and Toby's like, he's part of Rosewood PD's Fresh Perspective, just in case you didn't know Lorenzo was brown. Allie says she spoke with Spencer and she seems okay. And Toby's kind of doesn't really want to talk to her. And he's like, well, they went through a lot. And Allison's like, we all did. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. How are you doing? And Allison's like, I'm okay. She then says goodbye. And Lorenzo's like, so that is the famous Allison De Laurentiis. It's very much a conversation where it's just like, okay, you want me to ask you something, so I'll ask you something, but I would rather not talk to you at all. Ashley comes home in the evening as Hannah and Caleb are hauling down her bed. Ashley says, get a good night's sleep and we can talk about this tomorrow. And Caleb's like, well, the bed's in the hall now. So Hannah says, everything's ruined. I need to get rid of it. Ashley keeps looking at Caleb to commiserate. And Hannah's like, stop looking at him. Every single time Ashley goes to look at him. And she's like, gets all mad and storms off. Pam catches Emily putting away the gun. She got called by Jimmy from the gun range that he recognized Emily from when her dad and her her dad would take her around. Pam is pissed and says, you don't get...
And was excited to see her. He was like, oh, it's nice to see Emily. Like, he was not upset because she wasn't actually doing anything wrong.
Exactly. And it's just like, oh, great.
I mean, I don't know technically if the gun's not in your name, how that works. I'm assuming you can't.
Oh, probably.
Take a gun that's not in your name. But he wouldn't know if the gun was in her name.
No. At a gun range, do you have to bring your own gun?
I don't think so. She rents one after her mom tells her she can't take the dad's anymore.
Right.
So I would assume that you can rent one. I don't plan on going to one.
No, me neither.
Never been to one.
Mm-hmm.
Stresses me out.
Yeah.
It's really loud.
Yeah, that's why they have to wear the big earphones.
I find concerts stressful. I can't go to a gun range.
Yeah, fair enough. Pam is pissed and says, you don't get to go into the gun safe. And like they have an argument and Pam tries to talk to her about getting a doctor or like talking to Paige. And Emily's like ignores the doctor comment and says she called Paige who wanted to come home, but she told her not to. So she doesn't get caught back up in this. And she's like, Paige deserves to be happy. And Pam's like, so do you. Ashley comes into Hannah's torn apart room. Hannah says she doesn't know what she wants to do with the room yet. Ashley asks if she wants to see the other friends. And Hannah's like, I don't really want to. Ashley tries to talk to her about being kidnapped and that Caleb said she was in a room. Hannah's like, well, this is my room here. Ashley asks what happened, and Hannah says he played games with us, like Truth or Dare. Who do you love more, me or her? Who deserves water today? And Ashley says, this is your room, and you can have whatever you want. Ari and Ella are at the police station and say there's only circumstantial evidence on Andrew. There's a paper trail connecting Andrew to the missile silo where the girls were held and the construction work done there. Ella asks how an 18-year-old could afford that, and the cop wonders the same. The cop asks if Arya saw Andrew when she was held, and Arya's like, well, yes, but he was masked. And the cop's like, so you didn't see him. Arya's like, what do you mean? Like, he's done all sorts of like suspicious shit. And then the cop's like, well, we don't have any direct testimony that someone saw Andrew at the scene of the crime. Arya lies and is like, actually, yeah, that's what you want? Then I did. I saw him down there without a mask. The cop says, you just said you didn't see him, and was anyone else with you? And Arya's like, nope, it was just me and him. And the cop stops and thanks her for coming in. Toby and Spencer catch up. He says the case is pretty strong against Andrew, she's like, how is the case coming against Andrew? He's like, it's coming together pretty strong. And she's like, what happened to like, you're going to like catch him and bring him down? Toby wonders why Andrew held onto the van and kept it so close to the place where he was hiding. And like a place where he could be linked to. Spencer's like, well, A is for arrogance. Toby says, you don't talk about what happened there. Why? What do you mean, why? Emily's back at the gun range and has a flashback of her being in the same room as Spencer. No, not that Spencer was in the previous flashback with like the switches in front of the table. And a voice says, choose one or all will suffer. She hits a switch and we hear a scream. In the present, Emily sets down the gun and her mom comes in behind her. Allison is at church and sees Lorenzo. After Mass, Lorenzo stops Allison. They discuss church, and Allison's like, oh, I used to go, but like I don't anymore. And Lorenzo's like, same as me. You start to grow up, and you think you're too smart for it, but then you end up coming back. He says, I won't tell anyone you're in church. So Pam and Emily arrive home, and Pam yells at Emily for getting the gun, for like going to the gun range again, and never bring anger to the gun range. Your dad taught you like gun safety. Emily says, it felt like forever being stuck down there. Did you look in Sarah's eyes? You could see how long she was down there in her eyes. Pam says the person who did this is behind bars. Emily says there isn't more bad people out there. She says she went to the range to take away some of the fear, but it didn't. It made it worse. It makes you the same as what you're afraid of. Arya tells Spencer how bad she screwed up lying at the police station. Spencer's like, I understand why you did it though. And Arya's like, says sorry for doing it. And Spencer's like, for what? Arya says sorry, and Spencer's like, what are you apologizing for? But Arya doesn't say anything. Arya says Hannah thinks they should go back to school, and Spencer's like, I don't know, it might be too soon. Arya gets called away by Ella, and Spencer then goes to look at Arya's pills. Caleb inflates an air mattress for Hannah in the room, and she's happy to have her own bed. Caleb says she's brave, and her and the friends will get through this. Hannah's like, I want my night table back, actually, and Caleb smiles, and they kiss. Allie sees Lorenzo at the brew and apologizes for being rude at church. She's like, I'm embarrassed about going to church and like being seen there and all. There's a lot of stuff like, with me in this town. And he offers her a slider from his plate. Hannah fell asleep on Caleb and Ashley comes in. Caleb's like, oh, I was going to leave soon. And Ashley's like, no, you can stay as long as you want, and lets her sleep. Ella comes up to talk to Arya about what happened at the police station. Arya says she's caused enough damage. Ella says the police explained to the parents what the bunker was like, but I didn't see it. Emily sits at her window in the breeze. She puts on her dad's army jacket and steps outside. She hears leaves rustling and sees someone in a jacket on the other side of the street. She sees it's Sarah, who says she saw Emily's address in the hospital and ran away. Sarah explains to Pam and Emily in the next scene that when she came home, she ruined everything for her mom, who got lots of attention and sympathy when she disappeared. Pam says, you made your mom happy coming home. I'll go call her now. Pam leaves, and Sarah asks if Emily is sure that Andrew is the one. Spencer stares at a pill in her room and puts it in the drawer. Veronica comes in to check on her and sees she hasn't gone to sleep yet. She grabs a pill and says, we'll both sit up together, watching a movie until we fall asleep. Spencer gets a call from Emily, and we see cuts between all the friends as music plays. We also see Andrew being interrogated, and we see Allison looking at a photo album that has literal missing pictures.
That made me laugh so hard.
It's really funny.
Is Mr. D lying about Charles?
Oh, absolutely. That man is 100% lying. I wonder if this is... my theory on this is that it's like they're just like... I don't know. I don't really have like a good... Because Charles was seemingly a part of the family unit in those, like, videos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard for me to figure out what in the hell they did with this child that was... 3? No, that might be too old. Like 2 or 3, right? Yeah. So it's like, what in the hell did they do with the child?
And, like, what does Jason know?
Yes, what
does Jason remember?
Jason has to have some sort of memories.
Do you remember being 4?
I would think I would remember when I had a brother at 4. You know?
You'll have to see.
That's good. That's my
If I remember correctly, the way they explained this one away is really funny.
I'd imagine. I guess maybe that makes it seem like Jason also doesn't know, which is very funny.
Let's talk about the psychological trauma of destroying their safe spaces. Like, you destroyed their bedroom as a safe space. Like, that's fucked up. You calling that out is like, it's real dark. So that they come home and it's like, oh, I'm still trapped there, but this is... And also, on top of it, that it's the... Okay, sorry. You already said, like, safe spaces, but this is also, like, the safe space for someone as, like, a teen, like, within a house, because you don't have your own space. That the room is, like, your... Your room is the... Oy. Yeah, it's a lot. Like, the stuff in this episode is all... Like, just even going through... the recap there, it's like, Jesus, like it's all really heavy. It is. And so like that's why this episode's like a little slower, because it's like going through like them all trying to like process or not process. Speaking of that, Arya's decided not to process her feelings, which is like the funniest thing to me. Like, I totally get like they're showing like different ways people process trauma, but I would just think because Arya runs at everything and is so feeling that the idea that like maybe that's why they did it. Like the idea that Arya shut off her feelings. She's like, nope, it doesn't matter. I'm not making art out of this. I'm not doing anything with it. Ezra's very tone deaf with the whole like you can write it. Yeah. Isn't that exciting? Like, what a great way to... And it's like, go to therapy. Right. Stop talking to young women. Everybody, like it fits especially... Yes, go to therapy. But, like, they just got back. Let her sit and process this a little bit. Yeah, she doesn't want to... Yeah, you just need to take some time. I think it's funny that she's, like, out by herself. I mean, I know the, like... You want people to return to their normal life and stuff and kind of like process and figure things out. But the idea that she's like out by herself, like where's her family? Like she's just sitting at the brew alone. I know. I guess her family is now extremely trusting of Fitz. I guess. Because it's like we released you to Fitz, I assume. I guess. But is it? That's my assumption. Because he's there to like look out for her, and he's kind of like doting on her while he's working, but it is a public place. Yeah. And she just got back. Yeah, this seems reckless. Arya apologizing to Spencer. What for? I'm assuming there's another similar sort of... She probably hit Spencer on the button. What? Spencer was really excited that Arya called her. She's like... Oh, I wonder if Spencer also hit... Yeah, that's a good one. Good
good thing to point out there. We don't know who Emily hit.
And there are two kind of strongest characters, so can't you see the two of them picking each other? Because it's like, okay, we're less likely to break.
Absolutely.
No one picks Hannah.
I was wondering if like the majority of them, there's like something of like them picking Spencer because Spencer seems like the strongest one.
Well, and do you think anything actually happened to the girls when they did that?
No, I'm assuming they're not even in the they're just back in their rooms. And we didn't talk about also that they're like seemingly locked in their rooms for 3 weeks. Boy, it's rough out there. But I assume that it is just set up like that experiment. So the experiment I did not look up. Hey everybody, Brenton in the edit. What we are missing here, it's called the Milgram experiment, which is actually an experiment on obedience to authority figures. So I think Maps kind of twisted, at least here, for the liar's obedience to A's instructions on shocking the other friends. What the actual experiment was there was a volunteer, one volunteer that came in who was the quote-unquote teacher. There was another person that was pretending to be a volunteer, called the learner, and they were involved with the experiment. Then there was the person who was in charge of the session. And so what the teacher was supposed to do, so that's the volunteer that came in that doesn't know anything about this, they're supposed to instruct the learner and ask them questions, and the learner was supposed to buzz in, and the learner was in a separate room, supposed to buzz in with a specific answer. If they got the answer wrong, the teacher is supposed to shock them. On the other side, the learner is actually just pretending to be shocked, and each time they got something wrong, the electric shock was supposed to get higher. And so they had a tape recorder on the other side that made them sound in various states of distress. And so the experiment was to see how long people would go of essentially shocking this person, even though they were not actually shocking this person. So I think Maps really well here, and I thought it deserved a clarification. Now back to the episode. Like here, it's just like, okay, this is part of like that thing of trying to turn them all against each other. Like who is
one using their own guilt about it, not even like who hurt who, but like the idea that I feel awkward that I hurt you.
So then now there's
know that I hurt you. I don't know. No one hurt me, so that must mean that I'm the bad person for picking someone else. Or,
right.
You know, like it gets really.
Yeah. No, you get really in your head about like who you yeah, exactly. You feel exactly like a bad person, and which puts up a wall in between you and them for choosing them.
I know nothing about shooting guns besides shooting BB guns. I used to shoot BB guns at like a balloon board thing. It's very fun. I just feel like
a friend of mine growing up, they do that with like darts.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe as long as Emily's like being safe and going to a gun range, like, and she's over 18 and she's renting a gun legally and all of that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe like back off a little, Pam.
Yeah, or like, okay, I'll go with you, you know?
Yeah. Because then Pam is also like, your dad taught you how to like...
how to shoot, but also like you shouldn't go to a gun range angry, which I support. You shouldn't use any weapons while you're angry.
So then, exactly.
But is she angry or is she just sad? Or is she scared? Like, I don't know if Pam's projecting. I don't know if Emily's really mad necessarily.
Yeah, it seems fearful, like out of fear that she's going to do this. Because she also goes like, okay, but there's not other people out there that do this.
Yeah, there aren't other bad people that are gonna come hurt people. I just want to be prepared, which is, I am not I don't like guns. I don't want a gun in my home. Right. It's not my thing.
So this is probably just getting to that you can only do so much without about like say like gun safety. Like that as soon as someone gets like emotion, it doesn't matter like if they were like trained properly, that if emotions get involved, you can still annihilate someone. And I think that's what like Pam is speaking to in this moment.
Got it.
But she's also extremely controlling of her daughter. So it's that double
standard.
Exactly, that you should probably be going along with your daughter and maybe like you said, like supervising, because you obviously can't stop her.
Or remember the episode where Ashley took Hannah to smash the plates?
Yeah.
Like,
what a great thing. What a great move.
You know, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Why didn't Spencer just ask Arya if she could borrow a lorazepam? That's what I want to know. Or
yeah.
whatever their anxiety. I just assume it's like an Ativan because like that's just the one that I feel like they give in hospitals. Like,
right, totally. That it would that makes so much sense. It's like, yeah, my mom is like throttling my meds, and Arya would be like, yeah, here, take one.
Yeah, I mean, I know legally you should not share prescription drugs. Those right. That's a controlled substance. Yada yada yada. But
I mean, ask your friends. So they say in all the drugs commercials instead of, ask your doctor.
You're on a roll today. You're getting in trouble. But in the context of the show, like, Arya, can I take one? Yeah, please, for tonight, just one.
Yeah, because she does only even take one.
Yeah, she only takes one.
Yeah, Veronica is like off her shit on this one.
Hannah, come on, redecorating. I love this. This is what I remember the most about this because to me that is the most logical response. You have ruined my room. I now have to change everything, take it all out. And then later when Hannah's like, I miss my nightstand. Like, I want my nightstand back. So then you're like, okay, this is what's important to me versus like what will trigger you versus what won't. And what do you want to work past versus what are you like, I'll just change this.
Absolutely. And I think Caleb going along with it.
I think Caleb is the only like good partner per se in this. I mean, Toby's fine, but.
Right, exactly. But he's like, why won't you talk about this?
Or he's like, yeah, like, it's hard. It's like, tell me what happened. And it's like, you saw it, Toby. Yeah, you saw it. You went in there.
Totally. And it's still all about the case.
And catching Andrew.
I got to solve this. I was going to beat up Andrew. I was so mad. I didn't write that in the notes, but, and also Ashley of just like calmly trying to talk. And, I like when Hannah is just like, look at me. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, stop looking at each other like how you're going to deal with me. Like I am a person and I want to be treated like a person. Because that's, I think, the other thing is they were treated like dolls or like children. Like there's lots of ways you can look at it. Like they were treated like children. They were treated like dolls. They were controlled. They were treated like prisoners, which is accurate. And so after all the trauma she's been through and like everyone kind of looking around her, she's like, no, you have to, like, me, I am the decision maker. It is me. And I think that's really important to give her that agency back.
Absolutely.
And to call them out on it.
Yeah.
Because I totally get why Ashley and Caleb are like,
yeah.
But you're like, no.
They don't know how to navigate it because it's.
And so they're looking to each other and it's like, nope.
Yeah, I think all that's really strong.
I think Hannah's is the best like arc in the episode.
Absolutely. 100%. And I understand Arya's too of just like, hey, like, what do you need to get Andrew thrown away? Like, he's the bad person, right? We got to get this figured out. Like, I'll give you what you want.
I'm not actually going to process or talk about anything, but I'll tell you what you want to hear.
We got a solution right in front of us. Let's do this.
And then we can put this all behind us. Why did Sarah run away?
Boy, I don't. Sarah, if we okay, so I have no idea, but to start putting together some sort of scaffolding, is Sarah was similar to Allison of her friend group, right? That was the other friend group that we ran into that were like, Sarah could make you feel good, but also like she was horrible to us. So yeah, I guess that because it seems like Sarah gets picked up at a happenstance. It's almost like an accident that she gets captured. So I don't know what would. It seems like her family home is really bad, and I wonder if that's gonna like connect back around to Rosewood, like her parents. So maybe there's something there. Because why run away from her house when she's back?
The other thing is, do we believe Sarah? Do we believe how long Sarah has been gone? Do we believe Sarah about her parents? Do we believe? If she's like an Allison, how much of this do we believe?
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's true. And I guess that kind of cleans up the timeline a bit if like Sarah was not actually gone for 2 years. And that she was maybe on the run before she was put in a bunker.
That's all I have for you.
Okay. Well, at a slightly different tenor today.
For shame. For shame.
Very disappointed in myself.
I know, baby.
In hindsight, it's like, why didn't you just have Emily do it?
Uh-huh.
So, well.
I'm an independent woman. I can Google all by myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay.
They taught me how in high school, junior high, whatever. Remember when we had to take computer classes and they'd be like, you have to put the quotation marks and the plus signs in between the things. And
oh, man. I'm sure I did. I only vaguely recall.
Being taught how to Google correctly. And now I like typo something into Google and it's like, did you mean? And I'm like, yes, I did.
Who needs the quotations and the plus signs? All right, but let us step into... Hi, everybody. Brenton in the edit again. You'll notice that this theory corner is a little bit chopped up. And that's because the original time we recorded this, we weren't worrying about spoilers, but changed our minds. So I've just kind of left as much intact as possible to just give like general feelings and where I think things are going and how the pieces fit together now that I know the reveal, unfortunately. So if you're mindful of spoilers, you're still good to be able to watch it there. And yeah, just want to make sure that people who are watching along don't get spoiled like me. Oh, and on a separate programming note, we will be skipping next week, but we'll be back with an episode next week. All right, enjoy Theory Corner. Theory Corner. Welcome to Theory Corner, everybody. So, in lieu of trying to guess at who it is, we gotta guess the why. Huh? Why was Charles no longer part of the family? Oh boy.
And how was Charles a part of the family?
Yeah.
Whose kid is Charles?
So that's what I was wondering, if there's a bug on the side of your cup. Do not drink out of that anymore.
Thank you.
Oh boy.
This episode's a goddamn mess.
Yeah.
Get away.
So my assumption is, okay, so Mrs. D's dance card was very full. So what was Mr. D doing? Was Mr. De Laurentiis, did he have like a second family potentially? I could see it. Similar thing as like Spencer, that is like pulled into like the other family that he was like having an affair with or something.
Okay.
So there's that possibility. There also could be the possibility that like that last name and things is made up. There's a real bummer of a thing coming up here. So I guess it's saving some hurt from the future. But I don't know why they got rid of Charles. I guess was Charles, because my assumption is that maybe Charles was always part of another family, and that was in that video was maybe given up for adoption when they were young, and it was like a family friend that was running around in the video with them, and that they had found out that they were part of the family, and so that's part of this obsession is like coming back in. It's like the family that gave them up. Yeah, that leaves a bad taste.
Mm-hmm.
So as for Sarah Harvey, I don't know. There's got to be some sort of connection with the parents, I would assume, back to Rosewood. Or I think maybe just a bad family home, and that like Sarah Harvey's disappearance and picked up, like Sarah gets picked up potentially because they thought it was Allison and goes to grab her, but instead ends up with Sarah, and so then uses Sarah as the Allison stand-in without Allison being there. So, and that's potentially a theory. I could see that easily disproven or coming up later, but yeah. As for, that's, I guess, probably the best of my ability of like tracking some of this down without really now wanting to step in it, because it's like there's some stuff that I find particularly not great.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see in the future, but we'll continue to try and speculate. But thank you all for coming to this Change in Theory Corner. Goodbye. I know.
All his theories are dead.
Mm-hmm. Oh boy, this is just getting me practice for the 7th season or the last A.
Yeah. Well, so the second half of season 6 and like there's plenty more to guess on.
Oh, and the one thing I didn't bring up there. I am sticking by my theory that Andrew is somehow being blamed for all this, similar to like how Hannah's name was on the storage locker. That all these things are just like his name is being put on, other than the Campbell farm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is just a crime of opportunity, and that he was somehow like suckered into like helping them out without really understanding what he was doing.
Something I haven't asked you in a while. Who do you think killed Jessica De Laurentiis?
Oh, and why?
There's plenty of mystery still, baby.
Totally. Maybe they thought that like Jessica was the one that gave him up. Jessica was the one that forced them out. But why finally come and kill her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Bethany thing boggles the mind. And I still think that's something to do with like when Jessica goes and finds Cece like at Radley. What's the connection back to Bethany there? And then Toby's mom. Toby's mom is also somehow involved here.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot to try and wrap my brain around. That makes me Toby's right. The Radley stuff, I just go question mark. Maybe they like, because then there's all the like, there's like the nursery of Radley and things.
See, I wish that's what they would have done. I wish they would have revealed A like now, and then they would have started showing the why and like closing some of those other mysteries, like really like you get carefully, the really delicious review and like deep dive into like what happened or like who's in the barrel,
which we know is not around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and at least like you could do the thing where you reveal it to the audience.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah, we'll see what happens over the next 8 episodes.
We're still here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And you can find this podcast on all your audio podcast platforms of choice at Dead Ends. You can also find us on YouTube at dead_ends. And you can also, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Give us a positive rating, 5 stars. And you can also email us at deadendspcast@gmail.com. Any, fun questions, comments, and things. And that's also in the description boxes. So, but with that, we are still here. We're unfortunately going to find out everything.
You know too much.
I do.